lot to discuss today. At the last half of the hour, we'll be talking to Justin Gardner, the founder and chief marketing officer of Active Skin Repair. We'll tell you more about that then. But first is Jerome Riviere. He's a French politician, lawyer, entrepreneur. He was a member of parliament. 2002 to 2007, he joined the National Rally, becoming a member of the European Parliament in 2019. Led the French delegation of the Identity and Democracy Group until 2022. So he is going to give us a report about what's going on in France, both from the standpoint of how the European Union, and France in particular, is reacting to the tariff shocks, and the other shock to the French system. Marine Le Pen, the leading candidate for the presidency, has been subject to lawfare. I heard them coin the term judicial dictatorship in France, and she is barred from even running for 5 years. And tell us about that and more. There it is. It's an earthquake. I tell you, it is a political earthquake, and people aren't paying attention to it here. It's a big deal. Be right back. Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say. I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue, and we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15. And as I said, Jerome Riviere will be here in just a second. Hey, Kayla, before I move on here, I want to just fix my collar for one thing. But the other thing is, I'm wondering if we can tell people where to get the long-form interviews of what we did at the White House with the cabinet-level officials. I don't think people have seen the Linda McMahon interview. I think they just got to see a little piece of the Treasury Secretary. Where can they go to see those things?
All on Rumble, rumble.com/Dr. Drew. All the interviews are up there in full.
So, full form, long form. And then you put up pieces on social media as well?
Yep, all the clips. They can find clips on your Instagram. They can find it on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, even TikTok. There's a few clips there, but of course, suppressed.
That's great. I think...
really?
Of course.
Yeah.
How could it be otherwise?
You've been banned from live streaming. They actually gave us a ban, so we're banned from live streaming for 30 days, and they won't tell us why, but yeah. I don't even know when it started.
Because they know I don't like them.
And it's the same thing on Instagram too, right?
Instagram might be different, but yeah. TikTok for sure, they knocked us off.
Susan said all those shitty things about China. That's all. I did. But you might check out people have been asking about the Linda McMahon interview. She's the Secretary of Education, and she essentially told me she's going to shut things down. She wants to end her job. That's what she's been charged to do, and that she's going to really lobby Congress to get it done, which is what she must do. And she said most of the most significant, the things that everybody wants to protect, sort of services for special needs kids, that kind of thing, is going to be put over to HHS, where it belongs, and monies will be sent to the states in blocks to determine education needs closer to the students. Imagine that. All right, as I said, Jerome Riviere was a politician in France. He's a lawyer, entrepreneur, was in the French Parliament, then the European Parliament, and he joins us today to give us a report. It's useful to see what we look like from overseas. We get some insight into what we're doing here. Thank you, Jerome, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be able to discuss what's going on in France and to give you a foreign perspective on how lucky you are in the United States to have a Trump administration. I believe that this is something amazing that's going on in the States. And with quite a few people that believe in nations in Europe, this is what we have been working towards. And we have been shaken. That was decided a couple of days ago when Marine Le Pen, who is the champion for this type of policies, has been banned from running in the next presidential election.
You packed a lot into that statement. Now, one of the things you talked about was the fact that this new administration is moving towards, I think you used the word a nation as opposed to an empire. And I was listening to Radio Sud. I don't know what Radio Sud is in terms of its position in France. There's a guy named Berkhoff there, a journalist that I listen to every day.
He's a great guy, very independent.
Very independent. That's why I like him. I listen to him every day. And he was somebody he was interviewing. Again, these little nuggets. This guy said, well, I think it's the end of the American empire and the beginning of the reestablishment of the American nation. And I thought, that's a very, very succinct and clear version of what seems to be happening, yet we can't articulate it here. Are people thinking that way in Europe about their particular countries?
I think this is what a majority of the people are thinking, is that we feel bad because nations are disappearing. And this is quite visible in Europe because of the European Union. In fact, you have some kind of supranational organization, which is the European Union, that is slowly sucking up all the powers of nations. It began with trades. It followed with, during the pandemic, they decided they would take over health. Now they are trying to take over defense. All those powers belong to nations. And when the European Union was first imagined, the idea was to build a free market, not to build some kind of superpower. And we feel, at least the people I was working with, National Rally and other political groups, feel that we have to reestablish nations. Because in fact, when you said that it's the end of the American empire, it was not the American empire. It was a globalization, a global power, had nothing to do with America. It is the idea that a few people, a few establishment could control rules, take an advantage of whatever was best in whichever country, and impose it on a lot of other countries. It went through the United States because the US is the largest of all those nations. But we have to take our nations back and talk from nations to nations and not obey by the demands of larger powers. I strongly believe this is a financialization of capitalism that made all this happen. Capitalism is good. Too much finance, isn't it? What made it globalization?
Now, you mentioned the federalist system that you're being subjected to through the EU, now going from finance to health, now to defense. Is that why the enthusiasm for Ukraine? I mean, Macron the other day sounded like, like literally from the musical Les Miserables, like, we're going to the front, we're going to the front. It's like, with what, Mr. Macron? What is your plan? It was very odd.
Yeah, it is strange, but you have to understand that in Europe, a lot of those governments, Macron, same thing in Germany, with the exception of Italy, where we have a more nationalist majority, with the exception of Hungary, where you have Orban, who is fighting for nations. All those other countries, France leading the path, have been led by people that believe that power should be given to the European Union. And what better way to give away power of a nation than some kind of conflict? Ironically, if you look at the United States, you became really a federal country at the end of the Civil War. So a war is always a trigger to change things. Exactly. This happened to Germany in 1870, same thing. So this is why I believe they are trying to push this conflict issue.
So So I want to say that again so people get it. In other words, we came out of the Revolutionary War. We were 13 independent countries. We became this strong federation because we all fought against the British together, and that gave us the foundation for eventually this federal system. Germany was a bunch of little Germanic states, and it pulled together during World War I. And we're saying that same thing now being sort of advocated, at least because of the Ukrainian intrusion. Yeah, and that makes sense to me. Now, the other thing, there's so many different things I want to discuss with you. I'm sort of getting a flood of ideas. When you were in the EU right now, are you still in the EU presently? You're out now, the Parliament.
I am out. I decided not to run a couple of months ago. There is so little that one can do. It's not really an open parliament. For example, during the pandemic, there was a contract between the European Union and Pfizer. And as a member of parliament, the first mission that we have is to control the type of contract that were done. We couldn't look at the contract. They were edited. So we don't know who signed what. It is definitely not a democratic practice. So the European Union is a very opaque system in which very little can be done by so-called member of parliament. It is not real parliament. It looks more like, I don't know, some kind of joke.
So back to France and the sort of nationalism or the reestablishment of France, quite literally. I noticed, I became kind of, I did a deep dive on Napoleon after the movie because I looked at the movie and I just thought, well, okay, well, that didn't happen. So I was trying to figure out what did happen. And I was listening to several Napoleon, I wish I could remember this guy's name. He was great. He was sort of making the rounds, Napoleon scholars. And this guy was saying, he said, the reason you condemn Napoleon is you say he was in favor of slavery, but the reality is the only reason he didn't undo slavery, he did release the slaves in West Indies, except Guadeloupe, because there was a royalist uprising sort of led by the royalists, and they used the slaves to execute it, so he couldn't release the slaves there. And then he went on, I don't know, maybe that's apocryphal, I don't know. But he then went on to say, Napoleon that history is part of us, who we are. It's part of France. And I thought, France is having to actually look at their country and their culture. They've sort of lost track of it and have to re-embrace it. Is that something that's happening?
Yes. Some people are trying to look at history in a positive way. For many, many years, the main point of legacy media and a lot of politicians is a culture of the excuse. We were bad. We have been doing terrible things. We did slave, not looking at the fact that slaves were, there are multiple ways in which slavery existed, not just the Western Europe taking slaves and bringing them to the States. We are bad because we had a great culture and we impose this culture all over. Coca-Cola is like America, Europe, so we impose Coca-Cola in China. This is bad. So the way we have looked at our culture for the past 30 to 40 years is being ashamed of it. And what the movement that we can see right now, especially with younger people, is that they want to understand it better and they want to be proud of their culture. And we have many reasons to be proud of our culture. We have brought amazing things to civilization. And when you look at history, you cannot just look at the good things, but you definitely cannot just look at the bad things. It's a movement. Yeah. And I strongly believe that it is an amazing progress that the Western civilization made for humanity. We introduced so many great things. And I believe this began with Christianity. So this is something we also have to reconcile ourselves with. Our civilization begins with Christianity. So this is also something that makes Europe feel very uncomfortable. We have a very different relationship with religion and God that you do have in the US. We talk about laicity all the time, but we don't feel comfortable with it.
Well, I remember I was talking to a European journalist, this is years ago, like 15 years ago, and I said, what are you noticing the difference? She was sort of going around this country and, interviewing people. She goes, well, the first thing that absolutely blew my mind was almost every interview I did, God came up in the first 5 minutes of the conversation. It's like that would not happen in Western Europe. That would not be part of the front of the conversation.
But I have an anecdote. When the first time I met with Steve Bannon, it was in England, not the first time, but among the first time, and it was filmed. And he asked me if I could do the blessing for the lunch we were having. And I reacted as a French politician. I was like, oh no, I cannot do that. It's on TV. It's just like, we don't do. So I told him, it's not part of our culture. And I think this is things that we have to be proud of who we are. And this was a mistake on my part. I think that it is something normal that people can do if they feel comfortable doing. God and religion cannot be excluded from politics. It is also part of it. And I think you have a healthier way of looking at it in the US than we do in France especially.
So let's get to Marie Le Pen. Another clever phrase that I heard in French radio was judicial dictatorship. And I thought, oh yeah, that is, we call it lawfare over here, but judicial dictatorship is a really interesting way of looking at it. I heard someone go into the weeds today about what she's being accused of, and even my eyes glazed over. It's a complicated series of accusations, but give us a little thumbnail of what happened and what the controversy is.
It is in fact not that complicated. Basically, she was a member of the European Parliament and she was president of her party, the National Rally at the time called Front National. As a member of the European Parliament, and I believe it is the same in the United States, you have an allocation money so that you can hire administrative and political assistants. With this money, she hired people, and these people were working for her, but instead of working in Brussels or in Strasbourg, where the European Parliament is located, they were also working in Paris, where she is working as president of her party. And basically, they say this is embezzlement because she was using funding from the European Parliament to do politics in France. But when you want to be elected as a member of Parliament, when you do your job, you do it in your country. Again, it's part of the idea that the European Parliament doesn't like nations. And to be honest, every single party has done so for the past 25 years. The actual prime minister in France, François Bayrou, was accused of the exact same thing. He was found not guilty a couple of months ago, but it was the exact same accusation. That's why when Marine Le Pen was sentenced with this terrible sentence, banned from running, he said he was troubled. And he can be troubled because she should not have been sentenced.
Do you think the appeal will be successful?
Yes, but you have to see what they did. And this is a nuclear bomb. That's what she qualified. This lawfare, it's the weapon they used by banning her from running, makes it that an appeal, if she's successful, will be after the election. So after the election, they'll tell her, oh, you're not guilty, but the election is over. She's not president. She was not candidate. So this is what is really unfair. So as a reaction, the High Magistrate decided that they are trying to move the agenda so that maybe by the summer of 2026, they might have the appeal and they might have a result. But seriously, it's not up to judges, however good or bad they are. It's not up to judges to decide who's going to be able to run for the presidency of France. There is no higher Supreme Court than the French people in France or the US people, American people in the United States. Judges shouldn't be able to do that.
It is, and certainly we've seen this in other countries, attempted here, Brazil, was it Hungary, Romania, right? There's multiple countries where this, of course, it just seems to be a playbook right now. My question, though, is Jordan Bardella, would he be a suitable replacement? That's her sort of compatriot. Would he step up? She wanted him as prime minister, she has said repeatedly.
Yeah, but it's quite different to be prime minister or to be president. Prime minister, you don't go through an election. You get named prime minister because you are the head of the majority of a lot of members of Congress. And I think he's perfectly suited for that. Running for president, it's a specific tie between one candidate and the people. Why did Donald Trump, why was he so successful? Because he established a very specific relationship with the American people. He's talking to them. They relate to what he's saying. This is why he got elected. Another Republican having the exact same program might not have been elected. So Marine Le Pen has been building this relationship with the French people for many years. So yes, Jordan Bardella would step up. I believe so. Other people might step up, but the big question is, it's not up to judges to decide about who is going to be running or not.
Are you a minority voice in this, or are people outraged throughout France?
People are outraged throughout France. Even which is funny, even the extreme left is feeling uncomfortable with the decision, because they have understood that once we let some judges strike and decide that they ban someone from running, it can happen another time. And one thing that we have to slowly think about is we always talk about the separation of powers. It's a big thing, just separation of power between the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. On principle, of course, it is good and essential. But the question in France now is, who's checking on the judges? And I want to give you two examples, because it explains the questioning that a lot of people have right now. Recently, we have a judge. He was putting his daughter, 13-year-old daughter, for prostitution on websites. He was discovered. He was brought to trial, and after several trials and mistrial, his sentence was 3 years, non-executed 3 years. I mean, you what kind of messages does it send to the French people for a politician using political funds that should be used in Europe? They are used in France. You go 4 years in jail, and you are banned 5 years from running. But if you're a judge and you put your child, 13-year-old child, out for prostitution, the only thing you get is basically a slap on the hand. It doesn't make any sense. It is not possible. We also have. Sorry.
I was going to say that our judges are both elected and appointed, depending on the state. How are your judges? How do they get their position?
Appointed. They are appointed, and then they cannot go away. We have had in the news in France. We have a huge problem with immigration, and a lot of it is a violent immigration. And we have a lot of immigrants that are violent criminals that are supposed to be evicted from France. There is a judgment saying that they should be evicted. 90% of them are not evicted. The judgment stays without anything being done. And we see a lot of them committing crimes again and again. And we know that some judges decided that the sentence should not be carried out. Who at one point will come and decide that it is not fair, that those judges are not doing their job properly? So the check and balance works only if there is a real balance. When we say we don't want to comment, in France there is a big saying, I don't want to comment on a just judicial decision. But judges comment daily on political decisions. They even decide whether they are good or not. So at one point we have to put this balance back. And honestly, what President Trump is doing just by talking about it, by saying, I don't agree with this judge or this judge's decision, it's making people realize, yes, we can criticize justice when it's not done properly. They don't have some kind of papal knowledge. We say that the Pope knows everything regarding religion. They don't know everything regarding justice. We can criticize them, and they do mistakes. And when they do mistakes, they should be blamed for it.
I again, back to that radio show they were talking about, what is it called? What do you guys call the bandana wrapped around the eyes of the image of justice? Yeah, that seems to be pulled away now. So she's, it's supposed to be yeah, exactly. She's looking under the bandana, because it seems like the idea of a blind justice, or not, just an objective justice is under attack. You mentioned. Go ahead, please.
To go to your point, the judge, when the judge gave the sentence on Monday to Marine Le Pen, she said, I don't want Marine Le Pen to be able to run, because if she were found guilty during the appeal, if I don't ban her now, then she would be elected when found guilty later. So I take the personal decision to ban her from running. She said it's a political decision. It's absolutely crazy.
Did I hear people saying "Je suis Marine" at one point? Is that
Orban
a reference
said that. Prime Minister Orban launched "Je suis Marine." Yes.
Yeah, which is a reference back, if you guys remember, back to Charlie Hebdo, when "Je suis Charlie," and it's kind of an interesting kind of a. I don't know. It seemed a little extreme when I heard it, and I thought, well, it's kind of interesting. But speaking of extreme, you mentioned the left. I am. It seems to me like I'm surprised when people rally behind Mélenchon. He says the craziest stuff. What is the appeal there?
I don't understand sometimes how some of the French people react. It is true that he has some appeal. His main political agenda is to talk to the newly French, to the Muslim migrants, and he's advocating the fact that Islam should have a bigger place inside France. So there are quite a few people that come from Muslim countries that have immigrated into France. So he's making a strong point on that subject. What can I tell you? That's democracy, and I will fight him politically, but this is the choice of the people. If some people want to vote for him, I will tell them why it's a wrong idea. But it's a democratic expression.
It seemed like I remember. When you went through that final election, you ended up with the three. People understand the French Parliament is divided almost exactly into thirds right now, and he got up. I hope I didn't mistranslate this. But and if you heard his speech, like within minutes of the results coming in, he goes, "All right, that's it. France is communist. We got it. All right, here we go." And I was like, "What? How can you even say that publicly?" And people didn't. I never heard anybody pushing back on it. And he is. Go ahead.
He's very daring, and indeed he pushes things, but the attention that he gets is diminishing. Right now, he's not at all in the run for the presidential election. Marine Le Pen is a good 15 points ahead of the next candidate, and the next candidate, you have quite a few of them that could be coming from Macron's party or Macron's minority. They are far away, and then Mélenchon comes in third place, but he's quite far away.
And Macron is the middle, right? Essentially, but it's kind of a weird middle party. But is there any, I was speaking to Beatrice Rosen, French actress, and she said she thinks it's time for a sixième état, that we're going to just have to redo the republic entirely. Is that do those words come out of anyone's mouth, or is that her being hyperbolic?
Oh, yeah. No, it has been talked for me. We French, we love to change our constitution. we have had 5 so far. We began in 1789, so a little after you, but we have had 5 so far. The one that we have right now, our constitution, the 5th, was established by General de Gaulle in 1958. So there are indeed a lot of voices saying that it should change. It was established with General de Gaulle in mind, who was quite a strong personality at the time that was different. We don't act with amendments. We do drastic things. That's why we had a revolution. So that's why it's sometimes worrisome to see that we are in a dead end because of the reaction that the French people can have sometimes.
Yeah, you spent a lot of time in the United States, correct?
Yes, I do.
You spent yeah. So explain something. I asked Beatrice the same thing. It sort of fascinates me. I swear to God, I can't listen to a journalist interview, or at least a discussion amongst journalists before, within 5 minutes, they bring up 1789 and the rights of man, no matter what they're talking about. And there's like, when I first started hearing, I was like, we bring up the founding documents and things, maybe the founding people, but we don't talk about the events of 1776. But the French, 1789 comes up all the time, and it surprises me. What is that?
Yeah, but it's a war that the nationalists have lost. Say the left, all of the left and the extreme left is trying to impose the idea that France began in 1789. That in fact, before the monarchies, 1,500 years before, do not count, that they are bad, and that we enlightened the world, but we enlightened ourselves in 1789, which I think is very wrong. And I think this is one of the cultural war that we have to win. France did not begin in 1789. France began way before. We have so many things that did matter, that created this civilization. So this is why you will see all people that bear left ideologically will always bring back 1789, because to them it is the beginning of the new era.
Okay,
the French Revolution was not that great. It brought
because over here our preoccupation is with the terror. So we think about that first, and then we think about, at least I think about, totalitarianism, which is what the Jacobins were into. They took Louis XVI bureaucracy and made it a totalitarian kind of notion. At least that's what they wanted. And then the French and then the Russians and the Chinese, and they took it all the way. And
we did also a massive genocide. You have to know that in the western part of France, in a place called Vendée, which is a little south of Bretagne, in Parliament, the member of Parliament at that time said to General Hoche, to the general in charge of repression, go in there, go in villages, kill everyone, children and women included. We want to get rid of them. So it was debated in a parliament in France during the revolution. So there are many things that we should not hold that great about the French Revolution.
That what happened in the provinces have been forgotten. Again, the headlines are the guillotine and the out in the place. But the fact is that the local governments perpetrated some of the most horrific. And I remember just hearing one was at Lyon or somewhere. They took them on a barge out to a river and just executed women and children one after the other for hours.
And they put them on boats. And they would bomb the boats so that people would drown because they didn't know how to swim. A lot of atrocities were done during the war, during that revolutionary war. The great thing for France is that we were extremely populated. You had a lot of French citizens. Basically, the population of France equaled the rest of Europe. That was why Napoleon. He was a very good strategic guy, but he also had the manpower, if I may say so, because the population of France was so numerous that we were able to sustain long wars with the rest of Europe, against the rest of Europe.
That's interesting. I always wondered how that worked, because he had two major losses, two major problems, and he what did he lose? To hundreds and hundreds of I guess millions of men, right, in the war. Not that it was not citizens.
Yeah, those were local, battlefields. So it was a lot of people, but mainly it was soldiers dying on fields.
Yeah, soldiers. That's right. It was not. They didn't kill citizens, any of that kind of thing. Okay, so listen, I appreciate you spending a little time here with me. Let's talk really to wrap this up about how the tariffs are perceived by the Europeans. Are they in shock? Are they terrorized? Do they understand it? What are they thinking?
No, nobody understands it. It's a huge shock. I mean, I think they did believe for a while that President Trump would not do that. They have been living in a dream world. Can you imagine? For the past 50 years, NATO, mainly the US, has been paying for the European defense. With Marine Le Pen, we have been advocating the fact that we need to own our own defense. When President Sarkozy brought France back into, because in NATO you have the political NATO and you have the military integrated command, and France was not part of the military integrated command. We were part of the political organization, but we were doing what we wanted on our own regarding military operations. Sarkozy brought us back into that. We are totally against it. A nation should be independent. You have allies, you have an organization in which, but you don't depend on another country. So Europe has been living, a freebie. it's like the US paying, and therefore it's easier to have to spend money on other things. So I was expecting it, and all the nationalists are expecting that at one point this would happen. It's brutal. It's going to be difficult, but I think that we need to end globalization. Again, I think globalization is something that has made every people in every nation suffer a lot. So it will bring an end to this type of organized trade.
Jerome, where can we find you? We have you on X, Jerome_Riviere. Where else?
I basically that's mainly where I will post and comment.
And are you going to be back politically active? Should we anticipate seeing you speaking publicly?
I really don't know right now. I'm just enjoying taking a little break from politics in France and Europe, because it's a little crazy, and I don't feel like many things can be achieved right now with politics.
Interesting. Well, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. All right, so we're going to take a little break, and we are going to change gears entirely and talk with Justin Gardner about a new product, or not even a new product, it's new to us, called Active Skin Repair, using an ingredient called hypochlorous acid. Spit that out of my mouth. Hypochlorous acid. HOCl is what that is. And we've been using it to great effect in our family, and even in Caleb's family. He'll show you some pictures. I'm going to tell you right now about some good news. We had a great trip, of course, last week to the White House. It was exhausting. And Susan got hit with something, and so did I, and we were wiped out. But the good news is we had our Paleo Valley grass-fed bone broth protein powders in the pantry, and we started taking the chocolate in the morning, as we typically do. Again, right before the show, we had some salted caramel. And it got us through the show, and we are back. We of course had the sticks too. And Paleo Valley bone broth is different than other brands. It's made with bones, not hides. Plus, it's sweetened with monk fruit, so it's low in calories, nutrient dense, delicious, and support the small businesses that support us. Go to doctor.com. Whoa, what is going on here? Go to doctor.com/Paleo Valley for a 15% discount on your first order, or stay stocked up with a subscription. Well, I don't know what that is though anymore. So it's 20% off when you go to doctor.com/Paleo Valley. Also, we were talking about our new sponsor, and that, of course, is something the whole family is using and the team loves. The product line from Skin Repair, hands down, Active Skin Repair, I beg your pardon. The hands down favorite is the medical grade spray, which supports the body's natural healing process. Formulated using naturally occurring molecule called HOCl, hypochlorous acid, clinically proven. It's used in hospitals. It has anti-inflammatory. It has healing effects. It has antibacterial effects. We'll talk more about it in a minute with the company's founder. Spray comes in 3 strengths, adult, kids, and baby. Used for cuts, wounds, scrapes, burns, bug bites, skin irritations, rashes. And our baby was using it. Our new granddaughter, the parents had been using it. There they are. There's every time. She had a little irritation with the diaper, and she had great success using Active Skin Repair. In fact, Susan was standing over them going, use the Active Skin Repair. They used it on her face as well. She had a little acne, baby acne. Caleb has his experience. You want to describe that, Caleb?
Absolutely.
There's his baby. Yep.
My wife has been using this product apparently since long before they were a sponsor. I found it over up on the dresser. This is my baby girl. She fell off a couch, and this is the before. And that's the only thing we did is we sprayed this Active Skin Repair stuff on her forehead. And this is her after. Maybe I think it was 3 or 4 days later. It looks like nothing happened.
And I have been using the hydrating serum with the hyaluronic acid, and my face gets irritated from all the retin-A and stuff. And Susan's always complaining about the scaliness, so-called. It's actually desquamation, but I can't use anything because I get cysts and things. But this has been a godsend, and something that is therapeutic. And there's a before. Is that the before? And there's the after. It's powered again by the hyaluronic acid, naturally produced, and the skin repair spray is something to have alongside the emergency medical kit, and you will love the serum. Go to doctor.com/skin repair for 20% off. That is doctor.com/skin repair for 20% off. So,
I just want to say, thank God there's something that is smoothing out that flakiness on your skin, because you don't have little skin boogers on your nose anymore. And I love it.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to have it too.
I don't know if anybody ever noticed it before, but his skin looks so much better. Look at it right now.
It drives you crazy.
I know, and I'm so grateful. Thank you.
So are we going to run to anything else, or should I bring Justin in here? Caleb, how's this going to work?
Do a quick break. We didn't do the break yet.
All right. We'll take a little break then and be right back with Justin Gardner. The Wellness Company knows that taking charge of your family's healthcare is a top priority, and being rationally ready, and who knows what the future will hold for us. Now TWC has a service to cover your family's medical needs, including and especially prevention. For just $100 a month, the One Wellness Elite membership includes 2 free medical-grade nutraceuticals per month, free prescriptions for over 800 of the most common medications, access to concierge telemedicine, available at a moment's notice, and a 15% discount on all supplements and the emergency kits. 15% off the emergency kits. That's quite a saving. So if you're spending $100 or more on supplements and meds every month, this plan will already save you money. If you sign up for a year, you'll save $200. And when you use the link, drdrew.com/TWC, you'll get 10% off the first payment to the One Wellness Elite membership. Check out One Wellness at drdrew.com/TWC and get 10% off your first payment. drdrew.com/TWC. It's all there.
I wasn't all Dr. Drew or anything.
Why would I screw myself? What am I, Dr. Drew?
And we are back. Let's bring Justin Gardner in here. He's one of the founders of Active Skin Repair. Welcome, Justin. I appreciate you being here. We appreciate the product. Susan is not kidding. I can't put moisturizing cream on my face because then I get cystic acne and I get a mess. But with the hyaluronic acid, your product has been working. And so I use it.
It's awesome to hear. Thank you for having me too, Dr. Drew.
You got it. Tell us about the products and how you got involved with this.
So the way I discovered hypochlorous acid, which is the active ingredient behind Active Skin Repair, is I owned an agency and we'd help launch products into the hospital systems, a lot of times really expensive biologic regenerative medicine products. And they worked in surgical procedures. And in owning that agency and launching these products into the hospital, I had a medical device company come to me and explain to me hypochlorous acid and how they were going to launch it into the hospital space. And the technology was just kind of really mind-blowing to me on how simple, but how effective it was. And when I started to understand the science, understand that this wasn't the biologics we were launching were thousands and thousands of dollars. And this is, $40, $50 a bottle. And so the price point was very different. The technology it harnesses the power of the body's immune system, which I'll get into, but it was really simple, natural, non-toxic. And I went back to the company. I said, are you marketing this over the counter? And they had an FDA clearance for over the counter usage, but they weren't really pursuing that at all. And so that was the catalyst for me to start Active Skin Repair, to bring this technology over the counter, same medical grade formulation that I helped launch into the hospital, but bringing it direct to consumers and allowing a much better alternative to synthetic antibiotics, to really harsh antiseptics.
Yeah. So when I read about it, I thought, wow, almost too good to be true, but not too good to be true, because I was reading the mechanisms and they made sense to me. Let's go through each sort of general category. The first is antibacterial. So it has antiseptic, antibacterial effects naturally. What's the mechanism of that?
So let me explain hypochlorous acid too a little bit. If you get cut, scraped, any type of inflammation, your body's natural immune response is to send white blood cells to that injury. Inside the white blood cells is hypochlorous acid. So what we're doing is replicating the same molecule that your white blood cells are producing. So you're applying topically the way your body's working internally. And your body's producing that molecule as a way to fight off foreign pathogens. So we're creating a natural antimicrobial. And because it has a neutral charge, it's able to go and attack very complex and also very dangerous bacteria like MRSA, C. diff, staph, so some of the more complex bacteria, and you're able to kill that bacteria within 15 seconds. So you have a 99.9% kill rate within 15 seconds. And what's really cool about it is, again, no toxicity. So you're not using any harsh antiseptics. It's non-cytotoxic. So when you're putting it on, you're killing the bacteria, but you're not hurting any of those healthy cells that your body's producing to actually help heal itself. Or if you're dealing with like a chronic skin issue, atopic dermatitis, eczema, something of that nature, where you're prone to have bacterial colonization and flare-ups from that, you're able to apply our product to help get that skin microbiome back into a more healthy balance, again, without any harsh or synthetic antibiotics, steroids, things of that nature.
And the hypochlorous acid, is it an anti-cell membrane? Is it tearing the cell wall apart? What's it doing exactly? Do we know?
So there's always a lot around the mechanism of action that we don't actually know. But what we do know is because it is neutral, as opposed to a lot of our toxic antiseptics that are negative charges, this is able to go in, penetrate that cell wall of these foreign pathogens, of those negatively charged foreign bacteria.
And then there's some anti-inflammatory effects, but there's sort of inflammation modulation more than pure anti-inflammatory, correct?
That's exactly correct. And one of the things we joke, we call it the WD-40 of skin repair, because you can spray it on anything. It has the same safety profile as saline solution. So you're dealing with something that's really, really safe. You can spray it around your eyes, ears, mouth. From an inflammatory response, things like bug bites, sunburns, things where your body has an inflammatory response, it tends to work really well with. In fact, bug bites and sunburns are one of those everyday issues that when people use it, they can see that immediate relief. And again, kind of the theory around that is it's your body's natural mechanism to help reduce that inflammatory response. So by applying that topically, you're working the same way your body is working internally.
And then there's some disruption of bacterial films, right? Did I read that correctly?
It does, without getting too complex into biofilms. When you have bacterial that can colonize, it will create a biofilm, especially if you're dealing with wounds that have been open for a while. So sometimes with diabetes patients or somebody who's elderly and doesn't have vascularity down to like a lower extremity, they get a wound on their foot, and that wound stays open, that bacteria will actually colonize and create a biofilm. And what our product is able to do, and why it gets used in hospitals and chronic wound centers and all these alike, is because it has a 7-log reduction that's actually able to go in and disrupt that biofilm, get in and kill that planktonic bacteria.
And then finally, there's actually some stimulation of cell growth, right? Am I getting that correct also?
Again, we haven't done the randomized controlled clinical trials to show that exactly, but there's a lot of peer-reviewed literature out there that does hypothesize that by helping, and there's an oxidative burst through hypochlorous acid, that you are helping some of that cellular growth.
Got it. Am I missing anything? Again, it sounds like too much, but I read quite a bit about it. I'm like, well, this makes sense, and it is working, and all of us had this positive experience with it. What else do you want people to know about it?
I break it down really simply. It's a great natural antimicrobial, so you can get rid of all those toxic antiseptics, especially the synthetic antibiotics like a Neosporin that a lot of people get allergic reaction to, have a petroleum base. So you're able to replace things like that.
It's true. Listen, I'm going to interrupt you and say, the neomycin, is causes all kinds of problems. And sometimes you think the wound just isn't healing or getting infected. It's actually a reaction to what you're putting on it. So I agree. I've been worried about that topical antibiotic for a long time.
And there's also a myth too that I think when we grew up is that if you get cut, you want to throw alcohol or bacitracin or some type of toxic antiseptic to help that wound heal, but it actually is stalling the wound from healing. You are killing bacteria most likely, but you're also killing all those healthy growth factors. So again, our product doesn't do that. So you have something that's going to really clear out all these toxic synthetic products in your medicine cabinet that are antimicrobials. But then you have that anti-inflammatory effect too, which is everyday skin issues. It can be just angry skin on your face from, harsh winds, winter weather, things of that nature, too much sun, bug bites or inflammation. So you have something that's going to work every day. And then, like Caleb was giving that example with his children, how many skin issues are you dealing with? Bacterial issues with kids, right?
Yep.
From diaper rash to cuts and scrapes. If you have a young kid, I have a 3-year-old, it's an everyday issue from, cuts and scrapes and scraped knees. Yep. So you have something for all of that with no sting. So unlike the alcohol and the peroxides that sting, you're able to apply this again around the face, eyes, ears, mouth, and your kids won't scream and hate you for doing it. And the last part is, it supports that natural healing process. So you're putting something on that's going to protect from infection, but also spur on and help support that natural healing.
So we're mostly talking about the spray, right? The skin repair spray, which there are 3 strengths, and this is the baby strength we're looking at. Then there's the hydrating serum that I've been using, which I don't know if you want to talk about that or any other products.
So I'll start with the spray. So we have it as our normal spray, which is this one. And then we have a kids and a baby. They are actually all the same strength. So the formulation stayed the same. It's the same, again, medical grade formulation and proprietary formulation that we use in hospitals. The reason why we put baby and kids on it was because we just kept getting so many questions. Can I use this on my newborn? Would this work on diaper rash? Does it work on hand, foot, and mouth? Does it work on? And so after answering those thousands of questions, we just decided it was best to create a line that had that on there.
Caleb, your wife needs to do a she needs to do a TikTok on this, or I think I'm seeing her TikTok.
I think she did already.
She's picking up, her TikTok's been picking up a little bit as her mommy TikTok, and I thought this would be a good one.
Absolutely. I mean, it's right there in the photos. Like, you can't get a better testimonial than this. Like, it doesn't sting. All I do is I put a little hand up, like, shield her eyes and spray it, and she's totally fine. Yeah, both the kids are fine with it. Right. With all the scrapes and the cuts they get all the time, I'm just in shock just looking at how quickly that helped her.
Okay, I interrupted you, Justin. Sorry, you were going on with the sprays.
No, that was a great interruption. And then we also have a hydrogel as well. Same active ingredient, hypochlorous acid.
Oh, that's what you're using? Got it.
And that's really a preference. It's more akin to an ointment, right? So one is a liquid, one is a gel. All the things that I just talked about, they're both going to work the same. It's really how you want the application to be. And then we recently just came out with a hyaluronic acid, which is a hydrating serum. One of the reason why we did that is one of the things about hypochlorous acid, especially if you're using it as a daily skin health product, is it can be a little bit drying. And so what we wanted to do we're already big fans of hyaluronic acid. Again, another natural occurring molecule, very, very powerful in its hydrating effects. And so it just made kind of a natural addition to our kind of full product line of skin health. And that can be used especially, we get a lot of people who will use our spray as a daily facial spray for things like acne. If you're coming out of a gym workout and you don't have time to shower, to be able to spray down your face to make sure you're killing off all that bacteria. This is a great adjunctive kind of, after you spray the hypochlorous acid, to be able to put the hydrating serum on and get that hydration.
Yeah, I had not thought about this, but for a lot of people, the propionibacterium is a big part of the acne syndrome, and it makes sense to me this would work.
Yep. And again, one of the things I'll come back to kind of the safety profile is it's a great first line therapy, especially before you move on to more harsh or more toxic treatments that might be steroidal, might actually create some antibiotic resistance, might have some side effects to them. We have no allergic reactions to our product. Again, it's the same molecule. your body's producing internally. So
And
I
we
always
can
say
all
it's a
attest
great
to that. We all used it. We all used it on babies and on ourselves. And it's like
On their face, on
yeah,
the bottom,
neutral.
everywhere.
Yeah. So we are testimonial.
It was scary for me to like think, oh, what is the spray we're using? You know, because Douglas uses it every time he changes a diaper. Of course, Douglas changes the diapers all the time. And I'm very proud of him for that. But when he said that they already had it in the crib before we even found out that you guys were interested in working with us. So we're willing to push out the message to everybody.
Yeah, because we've all been using it for
everybody
different
already
reasons.
had
Yeah,
it in
so
the cabinet.
it's great. Are we missing anything? Did we covered all the territory and all the products?
You've got all the products. I think you've got how it works. And yeah, I mean, that was kind of the amazing one from going to launching us into intensive care units and intensive care burn units and these chronic wound care centers. And you're like, wow, this is so simple. Why couldn't it work on diaper rash, right? Like if you have something that's so powerful to be used in surgical centers, but the safety profile is there, well, why can't you use it for everyday simple issues? And it turns out it works amazing for that.
It's certainly easier to go that direction than the other direction. You know, going from outpatient to hospital is a big lifting, but if it works in the hospital and it's inert, it seems odd they didn't want to do that. So congratulations on bringing that to us. And those of us that have found it or have now used it, we are enthusiasts. We're lucky here. We try to be supported by people that we use ourselves and that we can say with absolute clarity that we support the products because we use them. So we do. So we appreciate it.
Well, I very much appreciate that. And we're, I founded the company and we're still very small in terms of the pharmaceutical world or medical device world size. So being able to tell people about it through platforms like yours is how we get the word out. We just don't have the billion-dollar pharmaceutical budgets to run TV ads every day. So this is a great way. It's a great product, and I'm appreciative to have a voice on your show.
And you get it at drdrew.com/skin repair.
Also, every time you see Drew on TV and his skin looks good, you'll know why. I finally found the magic hyaluronic acid.
Yeah, it's true, Justin. I've tried a lot of stuff, and everything of a moisture. I could use some moisturizers here, but anything it would move around on my face and then
scream like a little baby. No, it hurts.
Sometimes it would burn. You were talking about the hyaluronic acids and things, but even just a moisturizing. This achieved both. It gave me the moisturizing and the hyaluronic, and that was extra. Either would have been fine with me, but having both was a serious bonus.
And one of the reasons why I love it too, or hydrating serum, is because it doesn't have that greasiness. I don't know if you noticed that, and that we're not adding any scents.
Immediately, I couldn't do it otherwise. I could not. It doesn't even. It's not even like a cream. It just goes right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't feel like I have anything on my skin. She has me put it on my arms.
Yeah, his arms are kind of dry too.
And then she said, yes, sir. She goes, I'm going to put it on your back. I'm like, why? What's going on my back? But that's the point. I can't, I have something wrong with my pores. And so I have adult acne. I've had to mess with it my whole life. And then I put makeup on when I'm on TV and it's just a disaster. And so anything that covers the pore, cream, ointment, oil, anything, I get into real trouble. And so I resisted this when she was like, you got to use it, got to try it.
Yeah.
And I did. And I immediately knew we were onto something.
And also, if you look at his forehead right now, it's not shiny. So it's not leaving a shiny film or anything. Yeah. And he doesn't have makeup on. So
yeah. So there you go. We are testimonials, and we are. Caleb, anything else you want to add to it? Because I know you're an enthusiast. Your wife is an enthusiast.
Look, when we find a product that works like this, that our babies like, we're your fans forever. Like, we're your best testimonials, we're your ambassadors. And then when you guys came in as sponsors, I was so excited. So thank you. This is a great product for my kids.
Justin, where are you?
So on Instagram, you can find us at Active Skin Repair. And we're online at activeskinrepair.com, and physically I'm in San Diego. I'm not sure which question.
San Diego. Is that where is the business located down there too?
We are. So we're fully vertically integrated. Our manufacturing facility is just east of LA. So I'm located in San Diego, but our manufacturing facility is in just east of LA. Everything's made in California.
Amazing.
Here in the US.
I guess it's amazing. I guess the question is, when are you going to move to Nevada or Texas? with all your operations. So one of the last remaining businesses in California. So I'm glad you're here, and we're here too. So hopefully we'll stick it out until things get a little more sane here. But
so somebody on the Restream was mentioning razor burn and stuff.
Oh, I'm sure the spray would work for that.
That would be good, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we get a bunch of that, especially in sensitive areas. No sting, no toxicity. So, it works great there.
Okay.
All right. Well, you'll be hearing us talk more about this
Good
as
for the whole family.
time goes along. Justin, we appreciate you joining us.
Dr. Drew, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You got it. Cheers. All right, what's coming up for us, Caleb? We have a lot of show. We're sort of.
I want to go cut myself so I can use it.
Stop it. What? Yeah.
Just kidding.
All right, there we go. Okay, Adam Coleman, Tommy Kerrigan tomorrow. Sean Rosh, Sean was
tomorrow. Next week.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Starting next week. And again, we're at 2:00 all week. Sean was swatted, and then we have Salty Cracker making his performance return.
Wait, where's my show?
Susan, your show is going to be on Wednesday. Talk to them about it.
Yes, Wednesday. We have a show at 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 p.m. Eastern. 2 amazing psychics. We're finally going to get to this topic that I've been talking about, and it's basically the Manson murders. And I have a great guest who's related to a rock star from that era. And
so you're going to get big into the Laurel Canyon scene.
The Manson murders and Sharon Tate. And I've been doing a deep dive into it because we were supposed to do it last week. And then this week I couldn't do it because I had COVID. But then we're going to do it next week. But the snowball is rolling and it's getting more interesting.
It is getting more interesting. And Susan has been talking about it nonstop. And she developed a theory. I was like, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. And then Dickie from the Mighty Mighty Bosstones called me.
Well, you mentioned it on Adam and Drew. You're not supposed to take my show.
Well, no, I mentioned a different theory, not your theory. And then Dickie went, I hear what you were saying, but here's what actually happened. And it was your theory.
I know.
And I was like, oh, you guys got to talk. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if
so you have to tune in at 11 o'clock on Wednesday to hear Susan's theory. Dickie Barrett.
He knows everything about probably the rock world in those days, right?
Yep.
He wasn't that era, but he was he came off of that. And
he was not, but he's clearly fascinated with it. So he's read a lot about it, a lot of thoughts about it.
He's also friends with
smart
RFK.
Guy. Yeah. So, okay. So,
which I don't know.
With that, is this Thursday today? Yes. We're going to go down and see our granddaughter this weekend. I hope everyone has a great weekend.
We're going to go use a little active repair on her.
Active skin repair if we change the diaper. There's no doubt about that. And I'll be using my hydrating serum. I traveled without it from it. I missed it. So
I know.
Yeah.
I said, did you bring it? And he's like, no, you got to go put it on when you get home.
I did.
No, I'm not. We aren't making this up, you guys. I am so thrilled that he'll put something on his skin that'll make it softer. It's just so much better.
All right, everybody. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate our guest today, and we will see you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.